Hey everyone, welcome to today's premiere. So lately I've been having these short premieres go out in the afternoons, and I wanted to do something much longer because it's kind of challenging for me to stream. There are a lot of factors involved. My internet provider seems to be stuck in some stone age, but hey, I can't complain. I get good download speeds. It's just the uploads that are killing me. But hey, whatever. First world problems. And so what I'll do is I'll just take about 30 minutes and, discuss current issues in the game while you guys are able to chat. So on the top of the list for probably the next few days are going to be the suspensions, the bans, and feel free to voice your opinions, voice your concerns in the chat group. Keep it civil, be nice. Don't fight too much. We're adults here and you know how it is. But there are a few things that I wanted to discuss because these things are hot on the minds of the community members, and we got to talk about them because, to be very honest, if we do not voice our sentiments, the developers are most likely not going to hear them. They're not going to they're most likely not going to understand them, and they're going to be left under the rug. So here it is. We all have heard a full earful of the so-called suspensions, which are actually listed as bans in some cases, whatever. But these are going to be coming back, and people's accounts are going to be restored after the 7-day period. The only thing is they're going to be rolled back. There are people who are accusing other content creators of using the target practice XP glitch. You have to go back and look at the timelines for those. Honestly, I didn't know about this target practice glitch. That's why I'm not necessarily addressing it. If somebody can really educate me, somebody put something for me to check out. I've actually had some friends also send me some messages on Discord to actually go check out these glitches, send me videos to look at and do some investigative work, which I'm kind of slowly chewing my way through it. But you know how it is, grinding and all that stuff. And one of the really interesting things I will say today is, as we are now in the community, one of the things I will ask everybody to pay attention to in the community is, pay attention to what to what everybody in the community is doing or saying, so that in the future, when you want to say something, you have some proof, you have screenshots, and you have things that you can use to back up what you're claiming. I mean, if you're watching something on a phone or on a computer, it's very easy to have a screenshot immediately. I'm not saying try to implicate anybody or whatever, but, people, reference my videos and say, hey, you said this in this video. So you should be able to at least reference those things because, hey, it's come down to the point where if people are accusing the developers of being unfair, one of the best things that you can do is put it out there in the open. If you do that, you're better off in managing your claim than anything else. And so that's pretty much where we are with all the stuff that's going on in the community right now. A lot of people are not happy. Some people on console are not necessarily happy, but they've already probably many of them have created a different account and have started all over again. Probably going to use get a boost for their characters without any problems because that's 7-day progress. Honestly, in 7 days, if you use your boost, you can get to level 40 in like 2 days if you have a lot of downtime right now. I think I did so I have an alternate account too, and I'm thinking of I have my PlayStation account, but I've not really gotten into it. I'm so busy, and I do want to get into it. I think I might eventually just, throw away the excuses and get into it. So shout out to everyone who has been engaged in the community and everything that's going on. I know the Division has a loyal player base. People are reacting and responding differently to the way all this is happening. And so I guess that's something that as a community we're going to eventually get through. And hopefully we don't see the attitude of all this stuff later down the road. One interesting comment that a commenter put on my channel, because I tried to read all the comments the past few days. My goodness, there's so many of them. I mean, I'm not saying don't comment, but it's like, whoa, it's hard to keep up, because usually comments are not that much. But now each video is getting like 300 comments. And I'm like, whoa. Somebody said a lot of the, people that were showing these glitches at the time were celebrating it and making videos showing other people to do it and saying that it was in the game. So there is a side of responsibility that anybody who was showing videos of this stuff needs to own. And many people have actually owned it. They've said, hey, I own up to this. I did this. I showed videos on it and I'm okay getting banned, And, this is another aspect of it. But then also, I feel like it comes down to the basis of the conversation that the game itself had become, instead of a blessing, somewhat of a curse to the community, to the perception, to the PR, and everything. We were all excited about this patch. It happened to bring with it a lot of pain instead of the enjoyment and engagement that it was supposed to have. So this is really strange to actually see new content that's supposed to help the community become somewhat of a problem, if you understand what I mean. So I guess we'll pivot from here and move on to some other discussions. I have some things listed that I can basically talk about that is related to the state of the game from yesterday, April 1st, 2020. And they mentioned some of the stuff about the nerfs. They mentioned some of the stuff about the changes to Fox's Prayer, Contractor's Gloves, M1A. But one thing that the developer was also careful to mention was we're trying to look at bringing up other things from there. I've seen some videos and some reports talking about nerfs, but there are actually going to be buffs as well. They even specifically mentioned that they are playing with 20% headshot damage for the Punch Drunk mask. This is going to be very significant because that's a DNH piece, and that will take the tank build to a whole different level. If you're using a tank build and you have a pistol or you have like a Liberty, you can now, just off the top of my head, in-slot build for you will be something like the Punch Drunk mask, and you can use that, or you can use a regular rifle, regular sidearm that actually does a lot of damage, and you can lay down some good headshot damage with your sidearm. And so this is something that if the developers launch this number, it needs to be very significant to actually force people to put down their M1As at least for a little bit and go pick up that kind of build and explore it and maybe diversify what's going on in the meta right now. And so this is what we need to be looking at. I think more than just the nerfs, we need to keep our eyes on the buffs. I've also seen some people complaining about how Pestilence is too strong, how True Patriot is too strong. Ladies and gentlemen, PvE needs you to be strong. Already the enemy NPCs are crazy. So for anybody complaining that something might be too strong in the PvE game, I think that is kind of unfounded. Today I was commenting on... I watch Wiz stream. I've said it before. I like all my content creators. Like, it's going to be hard for me to bash anybody because I feel everybody is entitled to their opinion. As people, we have to look at people like that. So I was in Widz's. I know many of you are like, you watch Wiz. I do watch everybody. I watch every single content creator I can catch their stuff. Okay. If I'm not making videos or if I'm not playing the game or if I'm not, away from my computer, I will be watching YouTube videos on The Division. It's ridiculous. And I was like, so people are crying about the Pestilence, and we were having a banter back and forth, and some people were saying, it's really powerful, it's really strong. And I said, why don't people just build a countermeasure? And even himself had to admit that there are countermeasures to the Pestilence build. You can use a burst damage build. You can use all kinds of stuff. This isn't PvP. So I made sure I was talking to somebody who was experienced in PvP before actually making that, claim and that assumption. So it wasn't like something that's unfounded just in the PvE side of things. So they are counter builds to a lot of other builds. I feel like the exploration needs to continue to happen in that effect. People need to be able to explore and experiment before saying this needs to be tuned down or nerfed, because if they do that, it's going to affect PvE unless they make that change specifically for PvP itself. And that's where, we can have a whole nother discussion and a whole nother video talking about how they need to separate PvP from PvE. But I've already beat that, bell long time ago, and long enough that if the developers have not taken that into consideration now, I have no clue and no idea when they're going to do that. And then another thing on the mind of a lot of people too, with the entire game's feel right now, is there's so many underpowered aspects of the game. But one of the game designers, the Bruce guy, Bruce, that's his name. I call him the Bruce guy. He said that one of the reasons they've seen that, I don't know, is because a lot of the raid stuff has been locked exclusively. The backpacks and the chest pieces have been locked in the raid for the Aces and Eights, the Negotiator's Dilemma, the Ongoing Directive, and Tip of the Spare. Those three have had some of the most powerful pieces locked up. So people have not explored those as much. And, until I actually go craft them, I have a character that has all the blueprints. I'll craft Tip of Despair and I'll see how good it is, because I've been keeping my eye on that gear set, wanting to run some stuff about it, but I haven't really had the time. I think that's probably something I need to explore and see. Now, somebody else also kind of commented on our last premiere, we were all chatting here, saying it's probably because the new raid is about to come out. And so that's probably why they're about to start bringing out all the things that are available within the first raid as exclusives. They're trying to bring them all out. Now, regarding the second raid, let's just have it on record that before that raid comes out, I want to encourage players and solo players alike to start looking for and gathering groups that will be available to play that second raid on release. One of the best things that can happen to a player is starting out and learning all the mistakes with everybody else. So don't expect to beat the raid initially. Expect to gain the experience. And the reason I say start gathering groups right now, or start gearing up for it, which is like we're not going to know what to gear up for. I mean, I'm talking about getting ready, is there will be players available to play it at the time that it releases. People are going to be jumping back into the game to check it out. This is going to be your ticket for you to be able to at least start gaining experience with the raid, so that in the event of you finding a group that's experienced, you are also an experienced player. And that's one of the things I would encourage. One of the mistakes I made with the raid was I ignored it, but it was warranted. I have a regular job. I mean, I go to work every day and all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to be touching this till I get to the summer. But I also waited too long, because I had, a few months prior that I could have played it, but I waited all the way down the line. And that by itself just, it cascaded to waiting too long, if you understand what I mean. But I eventually got it done. I got all my blueprints. I finally, my Eagle Bear was given to me by a friend. So I would encourage, everyone to start getting ready, especially the solo players. I understand the challenge that it can be for, a solo player to go ahead and, get out of their comfort zone, get all the tools you need. I would encourage you to get Discord. If you have a tablet or you have a laptop, if you play on console, if you have a phone, Discord is good for, for a lot of mobile devices that you can actually use to communicate, because one of the things that these raids seem to bring is communication on the, on the basic level. Players ought to be able to at least talk to one another, and it will be stressful. But like I said, the first thing that people need to prioritize is the learning experience. And this is where things are going to start from. People are going to eventually start getting to the point where everybody is comfortable. By then, you would have garnered a lot of experience. And before you know what's happening, you'll be able to jump into groups. You'll be probably able to lead groups at that point in time. I think that's most likely where it's going to go, where, you're going to be leading groups. You're going to be very, very strong at what you do. And, that's basically what it's going to be. That's basically all that, you're going to experience and all you're going to be capable of doing down the road. So these are some of the concerns right now in the community. There is another seasonal manhunt. Honestly, I'm not paying attention to the manhunts. I think they might have also buffed the exotic drops. I noticed that in the past 2 days, I have received, today, as you're listening to the video, should be Thursday. Since Monday or so, I have gotten about 3 different exotics, or 4. Was it 4? I got the Pestilence LMG on this, my main character, my main account, Gamey Daddy account. After getting that, I got the Tardigrade armor. After getting that, I got the Merciless. After getting that, admittedly, we did on stream on Tuesday of this week, March 31st, I got the Diamondback, the guaranteed drop. But then I think just April 1st in the morning, I was playing a heroic mission, Federal Emergency Bunker, to use as footage for the video that I used for footage for my last video on, I can't remember what it was. I think it was something about fixing the game. And I got another Diamondback drop. So I have gotten 4 exotics in like 5 days. This is actually really strange. Now, I'm going to knock on wood, but before I publish this video, I'm going to run and quickly grind for the Bullet King and the Lady Death and the holster, maybe before I go jinx myself and then not get any drops. But it seems like there's been a tune of these exotics dropping very well. Because I've also had an RNG video that I made from the data mine stuff about the percentages, and perhaps they might have actually increased it a little bit. I hope they keep it that way and they don't stealth nerf it again when new stuff comes out, and people can just enjoy high drop rates for the work and the time they're putting in. Because admittedly, these exotics being dropped in a week is not, in my opinion, it's not shocking to me. But at the same time, when the patch first dropped, all I kept getting were those Acosta backpacks on my main character. And so maybe those were exotic drops as well, but I wasn't really paying attention to exploring the areas where these exotics were dropping. But I have to also say I did farm Bullet King a lot, like a farm Bullet King like crazy, and I still did not get it. So I kind of took my hands off and said, you know what? I'm going to back away for a little bit with this Bullet King thing because it is getting out of hand. But I'll try my best again to try to go ahead for it and see. So for those who are maybe discouraged, I just want to say I've noticed a little change in the exotic drops. I also saw a video from Nothing But Skills also mentioning that might be a thing about playtime. That might be something that they may have stealth increased. I do not know, but it is an observation that I've made as well. And then on the agenda, again, will be the so-called, buffs that the developers are talking about, and some of the buffs that I would love to see in the game. I think right now, with the hardwired build being the only viable skill build, I think it's the opportunity. Well, I say skill build, but gear sets around skills. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the developers to make another gear sets that's actually centered around skills and some other things. Now, the leaks for the new gear sets that came out the other day, I think there was one by Epic Slayers. I think there was one by Letho VD. Both of them did videos about this, and the reason I'm not referencing many people outside of those two are because those two are actually Division players. Anybody else, that's usually I don't bother, because they're usually outsiders, and that's fine. They can cover whatever content they want to, but I usually like talking about content creators that do play the game and primarily serve the Division 2 community, if you understand what I mean. And so they talked about these gear sets that are coming out. I have not seen them or seen any official stuff about it, so a lot of it is data mined, but it seems like they're going to be cool pieces. You can go check out their videos to see the purported or proposed brand set bonuses, because those stuff could change too. There are tweaks that could be made, or it could come out exactly as it is, but many times those guys, when they're with their information, are usually spot on. And another really interesting thing too is how the Hollow Man mask, which is something that a lot of people are using, is a gear or brand item that I've probably I will probably not get, because I don't really frequent the dark zone, but maybe one day I walk in the dark zone, I'll probably see one. And these are some of the things that are up in the air in the community right now, and honestly, who knows how the next balancing is going to come around. I think the best way and the easiest way for them to be able to do their balancing is they need to be able to and willing to change the interactions of everything in PvE and PvP. So when we say separate PvP and PvE, one of the things I feel like a lot of people, aren't taking into consideration, or even I myself, is how it's all going to interact. Are they going to go create new talents for the Dark Zone? Well, they've created gear sets for the Dark Zone in the Division 1 and even in Division 2. Right now, System Corruption is a PvP set, but I think one thing they can do is they can just ensure that all the values in PvP can be looked at separately. So it seems like it's going to take a little bit more work, but it's work that I feel like is going to pay off for months and months down the road. Because if you look at, say, maybe something like Safeguard, or if you look at something like Unbreakable, or if you look at a talent that is, reacting or interacting somehow in the PvE game, and you go into the Dark Zone and say, how is this affecting players, and do some testing regarding that talent, using that talent to do multiple parameters, of testing and just kind of seeing how people are using them, and watch YouTube videos. That's why the YouTube videos are there. They can actually look and say, we're going to tweak these numbers down because it seems like this thing may be scaling out of hand, or this particular talent is getting too much of a free reign and is causing a lot of problems in PvP. And this is going to work. If they scale that number for PvP, that works out for everybody, because in the PvE side, enemy damage and enemy health and enemy armor and all of that is already very strong. There are enemy NPCs that do not follow all the rules. If you play against the outcasts in a very tough heroic mission, the outcasts don't follow the rules. They don't play like the Black Tusks and in most cases sit in cover or try to do some really... No. The outcasts will run out of cover. Many of the different enemy types of the outcasts will run out of cover. Even the hyenas will run out of cover. I think it's only the True Sons and the Black Tusks that follow some kind of a, militaristic strategy or strategic protocol. But the other two factions don't care, and they deal a lot of damage. Somebody walking around with an SMG pointing sideways can literally just wave their hand at you and you're melted. So we need every strong talent and every strong system that's in the game that can at least help out for us to be able to take on enemy NPCs. So these are some of the things that I feel like the community will be happy to see. If something is scaling out of hand in PvP, I'm not saying that nobody should look at it. All I'm saying is that there needs to be a way to stop that interaction, or to manage that interaction within the PvP aspect of the game, rather than just keep things in a way where they nerf everything and everything is now somewhat not viable to both PvP and PvE. Also understanding that the enemy NPCs in PvE are already really strong, and if you scale up your difficulty and you're not able to match the strength of enemy NPCs, you will feel underpowered, you will feel overwhelmed, and you won't feel powerful or rewarded for the amount of work you put in to spec your gear right. So what's going to happen is we're going to go into a cycle of all these things again coming back, where they're saying, enemy NPCs are too strong, nerf that. I think what they could have done for all the player base was just to buff us a little bit more. I think that would have worked. If they had buffed everybody in PvE much more, then they could have said, you know what, we're leaving the enemy NPCs where they are, but now we've given you guys a little bit more of some resistance that you can put up. And even the developer in the last state of the game, April 1st, said they were going to be looking at armor to make sure people who are running 1.4 million armor feel like they're running 1.4 million armor. I mean, yes, there's a little feel of you running 1.4 million armor right now, but I don't feel like it's enough for all the investment that you've already put in. Every single armor piece that you can roll at max, if you roll all 6, is up to 170 a piece. And when you have 170,000 a piece, you multiply that by all 6 pieces. I mean, you ought to be getting a very good return for your investment. I mean, it's something where I would argue strongly that, let me do the math here. 170,000 times 6. That puts you around 1 million armor for all 6 pieces, and then if you have any extra, buffs or any extra talents that you're running that's giving you more armor. Why is my calculation wrong? Is it more than 170,000 for armor rolls on each item? Maybe some items roll more, maybe some don't. I guess my math might be off. But if your armor is around 1 million, 1.2, 1.4, 1.5, 1.8 million, you have to be able to feel the difference. And if you put things like protection from elites, burn resistance, if you roll things like status, I say status effect. If you roll things like, hazard protection, those things ought to show up in your build. And so that's another thing that the developers need to work with. And I'm hopeful. I'm quite positive that these things are going to show up very soon, but they need to be significant enough and they need to come quicker. I know the developers have said rolling out everything in one big, rollout is not realistic, but the reality is that's exactly what the game needs. Big amounts of rollout, because it seems like big things eventually become the problem. And so to solve it, you have to solve it in a big kind of way. You cannot be rolling out, small solutions over a 7-month period. By the time you actually get to the end of 7 months, people would not even realize that you've made a solution to the problem. And the perception across the community, across the board, will be that, this is just a waste of time. So there is my little rant. I thought I'd do this, for the community so that everybody can have a place just to communicate and talk about the game. I would love to stream, ladies and gentlemen, but trust me, it is not even right now possible. Yesterday, you guys were on the stream with me, and I was a little tired, from everything I had to do. So I feel like this is a potential solution and a potential medium. And I appreciate you guys for even engaging the stream. It's because of you guys that, it's possible to make YouTube. A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of prayers. I thank God for the strength to be able to even do this. Because I know that it is impossible as a part-time creator and, everything that comes along with it. But you guys make the journey fun and easier. So I appreciate y'all in the community. Thank you so much for your time and audience. I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.